with editor Sara Goodman. Hi, Sara.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for being here. 1 second.
My pleasure.
Okay, Caitlin. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. It is echoing for some reason. Sorry, guys. We're still getting situated here. So, Sara Goodman, I'm going to read her fantastic bio, and I'm going to butcher so many words on here. It's going to be amazing. She is the editorial director at Wednesday Books, a young adult imprint of St. Martin's Press. Before she began her editorial career, Sara was an agent at Ralph M. Vicinanza. Vicinanza.
There you go.
Have like an Italian spin at the end.
Yeah, gotta put a little flair into it.
Yeah, okay. But moved over to St. Martin's Press in 2007 to start fresh as an editorial assistant. In the course of her career, she's been fortunate to edit Rainbow Rowell. She's also worked with William C. Morris, Stephanie Keene. Ooh, I got that one.
That's okay.
Keene, right?
She's the William C. Morris award-winning author, Stephanie Keene. Yes.
Ooh,
that's a library word.
Let's not shortchange her. I said William C. Morris. Yeah, it sounds like it's an author name. Stephanie Perkins, Nina LaCour. I believe she's my agent sister. And David Levithon. So welcome, Sara. We have so many burning questions for you.
Thank you so much.
You guys, we are going to ask questions for Sara for just a few minutes, and then we're going to open up questions to you guys. Y'all can go ahead and start asking questions on the little YouTube site. I see you already have some good ones coming in. Great. Keep them asking because we'll scroll back through whenever we jump over to that. And I know you guys are missing Lindsay today. She is, of course, on maternity leave with her little babe. He's the cutest thing in the world. So today we have Caitlin. Say hi, Caitlin.
Hi, guys.
If you follow us on social, you know that Caitlin is with us. She is a UNT student, and she's editor-in-chief at her literary magazine, which is pretty awesome. All right, Sara, are you ready for question number 1?
I'm so ready.
All right. Okay, this question actually comes from one of our subscribers that is only was not able to make the chat. So what do writers do that make your job as an editor easier?
I think probably primarily just communicating with me as directly as possible. I think sometimes when authors are maybe struggling with a manuscript and are just writing, trying to break through, they maybe find themselves too deep into the woods to return. And perhaps they should have contacted me a little bit before. It's a funny analogy, but I often think of it as like they always say, like if you have like credit card debt and you're going to be late on your payment, like you should just call them and let them know. And usually it's okay. And not to equate this with credit card debt because it's not like that at all. But I do think that authors and I think that also comes with, it's the editor's responsibility to make sure that the author is comfortable with them too, but to make sure the author communicates a lot. They're struggling with something, we can get on the phone and try to sort of untie the knot that they're in. So that's number 1. But I also think somebody who has a good sense of their brand and who their audience is, who sort of realistic sort of perspective on it is always nice too, although not necessarily. But it is nice when somebody comes in saying like, I know that this is who I'm publishing for. I'm publishing for this kind of reader. And it's just helpful, I think, for an author to kind of understand that about themselves too sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. Very well answered, Sara. Gold stars. Okay, I actually really like this question. What habits do writers have that you feel leads to them being successful in their careers? Like, what do you feel like, even outside of you guys working together, what do you feel like writers do, or when they're working with you, or working with their agents, or working at home on their own? Just what habits do you feel like from experience from working with, some insanely successful writers that you're like, I know that these people always do this, and like it really helps them?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think it seems to me that a lot of times when I see these conversations happening on Twitter among authors, it seems to me that the biggest piece of advice I see coming through is just to sit down and write. And I think people who kind of feel comfortable doing that, even when it's uncomfortable, when it sucks, when it feels painful and you know that you're not doing anything good and it's really deflating, that somehow they're able to sort of push on through and just get through that part of it. So that to me seems like something that is the sort of a trait of a successful author, somebody who's like not so taken out by writer's block, or maybe it doesn't even have to be writer's block, a bad day. But I do think that that's so easy. It's easier said than done. So it's always a process. And I think every author has sort of an arc probably too, where they have had certain easier times writing books than others. So, but yeah, I think just sort of knowing how to just get through the tough time is good. And I also think that like, and this comes with experience and it depends on the person, but to sort of be able to ride the wave of the fluctuations in the industry as much as they're able to, because we have to do it as editors too. Things change so fast, especially in young adult, that I think that just having an ability to sort of just ride out certain times
Yes.
is also a good one.
Agreed. Very hard agree on that. That's good. Okay. What do you feel like you look for in a query that would lead you to requests? Like, is there anything that when you're going through these just, tons and tons of, messages from, I'm sure most of your queries, of course, are from agents.
Yeah.
But when you get one from an agent, what is it? Is there something, not even if you're looking for a certain, like you're like, I know I'm in the market for this kind of story and it falls in your box, but what is something that almost every time, if that is, like in the pitch from the agent or, I don't know, just what is it? Like, what is it that makes you consistently say, yes, exactly. And say, I've got to read this.
Well, it's hard for me to say, honestly, like for me, I tend to be an editor who likes to be called by an agent. So that doesn't really help what you're saying here, but I do like to hear the enthusiasm in an agent's voice because it means something. But if we're just talking about a written note, an email, it's hard because I think there isn't like a specific thing that I can say, but I think that there's a certain clarity to the vision. Like I always know when I read about a book, if I can instantly see the cover and I can instantly see the packaging and the reader and if I can instantly sort of see it on the shelf, I know that there's something there. So I think maybe an agent who's able to communicate that directly really easily is somebody who also has chosen the right book to represent and send my way. So I think just sort of immediately positioning and packaging the book in like the first 2 sentences makes a huge difference. And that can just be like, this is, Hunger Games meets Judy Blume or whatever.
I love that. When can I read that?
but I think that, that's to me, especially if hits exactly something that I'm looking for, or just that I'm a fan of that kind of book, like, and they've done their research and they know that I would be a fan of that kind of book, thought put into it as well.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, guys, Scribblers, I just want to point out something really good that Sara said. She said that she prefers to be called on the phone sometimes with like pitches so she can hear it. That's a really great question to ask if you get if you're either searching for a new agent or a first-time agent. I'm meaning your first agent, not like it's an agent being an agent for the first time. But to ask them those kinds of questions that you might want to put that on your list of like, when you do pitch my book, how do you usually pitch? Do you call some editors? Do you email all of them? And like that, I can tell you firsthand you're going to get like a solid answer on that. They're either going to tell you, I don't believe in calling, I like to email everything, and if they want to get on the phone, I'm available. Or they're like, I know certain editors that like to be on the phone and certain editors that do not want to be on the phone, and so I handle them different ways. It's just a good question to ask if you're speaking with agents. All right.
And
Caitlin.
Yeah, Sara, I have an interesting question for you as well.
Sure.
Have you ever passed on a book and then regretted it after?
Yes. It is said in publishing that if you haven't had a book that you passed on be #1 on the bestseller list, then you haven't.
Oh.
Like there's like a certain that happens to everybody. We've all passed on the Harry Potter. We've all, you know what I mean? Yes. I didn't pass on Harry Potter. I wasn't actually acquiring books when Harry Potter came through, but I'm sure people did because it was passed on by 15 people or something like that. And I'm sure all those people just hang their heads down and shake their heads.
Oh my goodness.
It's happened to all of us. Yeah. And, but also on the other side of that, if you've passed on something, it's because you didn't like it. And we don't love all books that hit #1 on the bestseller list. And I think it landed in the right hands if it had that kind of success. And I may not have been able to give it that kind of success since I didn't love it as much as that person did. So that's how we console ourselves.
Yeah, that's how you sleep at night.
Yes, it's how we sleep at night.
I love it. Okay, another question for you. So when you guys acquire books, I'm sure like most houses, you probably take them to an acquisitions meeting. Do you guys take them to acquisitions meetings?
We do.
Okay. And in acquisitions meetings, just for scribblers who are unfamiliar with this, a lot of times there might be like marketing people. And so what also comes into play is not just how much did I love the book, but can it be packaged and can it easily be understood by readers in a kind of a quick snapshot? So I've always wondered, because I know first time being a debut author can almost sometimes be easier because you don't have past sales, kind of to be able to like look at as either ammunition that it's going to do well or ammunition that it's not going to do well. Meaning, so someone like me, I've had a number of books out, so sales can probably get a good idea of here's how much this book might sell. It might sell way more than that or way less, but at least it's an idea. So do you feel like past sales contribute to whether an author's next title gets acquired? And if so, by how much?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it can affect that. But I should say that it like is not necessarily the only reason we would either pass or buy a book too. Like even if, let's say, the track was really excellent on a book that just was not quite up to the author's capabilities or the right thing for them to be writing. So it's only one factor. I have taken on, I would say probably a couple different projects over my careers, or wanted to buy them. Maybe I didn't take them on, wanted to buy them, even though there was a past track of maybe just modest sales, because the book in hand was so fabulous and I had a vision for it. And to answer your other part of the question, it's like if this book comes in and let's say there's sort of a spotty track, let's say, or an old track, a track where that's like from a couple years ago. If the book is so good and you just immediately see how great you could do with it, then, oh yeah, I only let that be one sort of ingredient in my decision making.
That's good. I like that. All right, let's see. Okay. What do you think are the pros and kind of cons of self-publishing if your ultimate goal is to be traditionally published? I know that's a large question with lots of parts, but
yeah, I don't even know if I know the right answer, because I think there was a time when self-publishing was a really, really viable option to make a lot of money and have a lot of control over your publication process.
Sure.
You might not get the sort of distribution that you would get through a traditional publisher, or certainly the marketing dollars. But things have changed a little bit. But I do think that self-published authors, when they let's say they do come over to a traditional publisher, they've had a lot of experience and they know their audience really well. So that's really valuable because they have had so much data coming their way, that, certainly the authors that we've worked with, like it's been very valuable to have somebody come in who just really truly understands the people buying their books. And that is the case with people who have been self-published. But I don't know, I don't keep up with the self-publishing world as much as I probably should these days. So I'm actually not sure what now is going on in terms of people having success. I'm sure it's still happening. But I don't know the specifics of what's going on right this minute.
No, I think I do agree with you though, that I think it probably, the like breakout successes I think have gone down a little bit, but that's only because I think it's gotten a little more saturated than it was, in the beginning. I think everybody was kind of shy to self-publish at first. And then as we were hearing all the success stories, then everybody, even traditionally published authors, were like, hey, let me throw out a manuscript and make $1 million.
Sure. Exactly.
And then everybody collectively was like, oh, wait, nobody's making $1 million.
Yeah. And suddenly there's a lot of noise and it's hard for people to break through.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
All right. Sarah, I have another question for you.
Sure.
And that is, what are your thoughts on prologues in general?
I don't have a problem with prologues. I know that I sometimes read things like, a no-no from my editors, no prologues. And I was like, really? I didn't know that that was a rule. I don't mind them. I think I'm somebody who I guess struggles in general. I'm not like I'm not a big fantasy reader, for example. And so I struggle sometimes getting through world building or setting up a world in which a book is taking place. And sometimes a prologue is just a really easy way to identify that without it getting bogged down in a lot of world building. And that's a personal taste for me. Some people love the world building part of that. So that's just for me. A prologue doesn't bother me. Is my point.
Awesome.
But again, I know that they're controversial. So just like receiving a phone call from an agent, not everybody likes them. So that's me.
Scribblers, I will tell you, I think I put it on our private Facebook chat the other day. What I got from my editor one time was to basically, if it's possible, to take your prologue, make it chapter 1, and then make your second chapter just say 4 years later or something like that. As long as the prologue is like a scene with action or something to catch your attention and is a good opening chapter, there's no reason why you can't just call it chapter 1, so that people who don't like prologues won't pick it up and go, oh, no, prologue, skip, and go to the next chapter. All right, Sarah, are you ready for some subscriber questions?
Okay.
Let's do it. So the first question is from Dana. I think I'm saying that correctly. Her question is, what immediately lets you know that the manuscript you're reading is going to be great or not so great?
So I actually can tell probably within the first 2 paragraphs what kind of a writer I am in the hands of. And I can forgive a lot of plot problems, character development problems if I'm seeing stuff right away that I've never seen before. So I often am on a lookout for somebody describing something in a way that I've never seen before, sort of a different bent on something. And that to me is somebody who's really pushing themselves to use language. So that to me stands out right away. But I don't like a mess. Like I like somebody who's also efficient and has gone through and taken out the extra words and really cleaned up things, especially at the beginning, because us poor editors, it's a great job. So we're not that poor, but I just, we have a lot to read. And so if you help us out and by giving us a really, really tight first chapter, that's also something that I pay attention to. I can forgive a sort of saggy middle if that first part is really good.
Great. This is from Camille. She says, hello, Sarah. I appreciate you being here with us. Oh, she's so kind. I read Sadie, and it was such a polished read. I totally agree. I don't know if you know how I feel about Courtney Summers, but she's literally my number 1. Like, I love her.
She's super good.
So, sorry, I jumped out of her comment just to add that little thing. She says, when editing, I'm going to jump to the second part of your question, Camille. What kind of scenes do you find yourself cutting?
I find myself cutting, I wouldn't know if I cut a whole scene, but I cut a lot of dialogue down sometimes if conversations are going on too long in a scene, because I feel like it kind of slows plot down. Overly descriptive paragraphs I sometimes will cut out because, especially in a book like Sadie, you're trying to keep, I think, a real spare, sharp movement. Sure. Again, it also depends on the book, right? But certainly with Sadie, we were very spare with the language, so there was a lot of that too. But I think probably for the most part, in general, just across all editing that I do, I find myself for the most part, like when I'm like particularly pushy on edits, it's like these dialogue scenes are going on too long. We all talk this long in real life, but on the page, characters don't usually.
Sure. No, that's great. I love that advice, actually. I want to make a little blurb for that. Okay, this is from Erin. She said her question is about blurbs. Do you have any advice on writing or editing blurbs that hook readers? Just the little, back of the jacket copy. I know in traditional world, most of that is done by editors, correct? I know I don't really write them.
The blurb, you mean like
the like the back of the the cover copy to kind of grab you. Do you guys, the editors, do it? Did you do it for Sadie?
Yes. Well, I think so actually, good. You know what? Actually, I think Courtney wrote that copy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, she did. We went back and forth. I had been on a kick of writing really short cover copy for a while.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I learned that from Rainbow, from Eleanor and Park, because we actually have very short copy, which only kind of gives you a sense of the characters. It doesn't really get too much into plot, because the point of the book, right, is to read the book. But it is hard because you want to draw the reader in. Depends on the book. I've been on a kick of doing, like I said, like shorter, punchier, tight copy that just pull you in right away, get you wanting to read the book, but not having to read too much text. But I think in the case of Sadie, there was a lot to say. So I really like that copy too.
I love it. So you kind of say when you're writing a blurb, maybe go for more like the feel of the book and what you're getting yourself into versus like this is A, B, and C of what is going to happen.
Yeah, well,
in
look,
this.
let me read you the Eleanor and Park copy if
Do
you
it.
want. I can do
Yes,
it. Like, okay,
read it.
It just says Eleanor, red hair, wrong clothes, standing behind him until he turns his head, lying beside him until he wakes up, making everyone else seem drabber and flatter and never good enough. Eleanor. Park. He knows she'll love a song before he plays it for her. He laughs at her jokes before she ever gets to the punchline. There's a place on his chest just below his throat that makes her want to keep promises. Park. Set over the course of one school year, this is the story of two star-crossed 16-year-olds, smart enough to know that first love almost never lasts, but brave and desperate enough to try. I mean, it's perfect copy.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. So Erin, I think sometimes it's just about capturing the feel of your book and hooking the reader with something interesting versus talking about the most exciting things that are in your book. I'll also piggyback on that and say my editor and I had gone back and forth on the blurb for the jacket copy for We Told Six Lies, which is coming out in March. And we did the same thing. Initially, we were going back and forth on like, oh, here's the best parts of the book. Here's what would hook readers. And then part of the novel is in second person, about a third of it. And so we were like, hey, that's kind of the unique thing about the book. Why aren't we putting that on there? So then we basically did just a one little section where the one character is talking to his girlfriend that went missing in second person. And he's saying you, the whole time. And we were like, that's it. After we'd gone around and around like 10 times, we were like, that's it. We're just trying to communicate kind of what makes your novel feel unique or trying to capture the voice or the characters in that great Rainbow Rowell example. All right, let's do maybe one more. Let's see. I got so excited about this, I stopped looking at questions. I knew somebody said, Sarah, you said that things are changing in the YA. Where was that? You say a lot of things have changed a lot in YA. Can you give an example?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of, I mean, changing, it goes back and forth. You go through phases where there's like a lot of contemporary realistic stories really sort of breaking through. And then other times you have more fantasy coming through. We have right now it's like The Hate U Give and Children of Blood and Bones sitting at the top of the bestseller list, just dominating. And it's been so fabulous. And I think that, different voices coming through and more voices that still haven't had a chance to come through are sort of almost waiting in the wings, ready to come out, because so many books have been bought over the last couple of years that are only just about to be published that people haven't seen yet, that I happen to know are out there and about to be published. Different voices. I think that we're in a really exciting time right now where I think we're really trying to focus on just all kinds of different points of view that we've never seen before. So there's just a lot of change happening, and it's a good thing.
Love it. All right, we're going to do one last question, and we're going to play a quick game, and we're wrapped. This question is a little like general and vague, so answer it however you would like, but I do like the question. It says, hi, Sarah. What is the biggest mistake you see first-time authors make? That could be in their manuscripts. It could be in their careers. What do you think?
Biggest mistake that first-time authors make. Gosh, that's a good question. I guess maybe by not saying yes to opportunities that come.
Oh, I like that.
So
I like that.
I think sometimes, and I get it, like I think people, writers all come in all different types of personalities. And I think if you're somebody who's very shy and doesn't like going to events and things like that. I totally get it. But I think if you don't sometimes push yourself to do it, if you can, if you're able to, you should. Or if you're invited to it and you're a little bit scared to do it, you should absolutely do it. You know, I understand that people have limitations and I totally get it. But if you're able to do it, you should do it.
Yeah, you can always do it once and never again. Just
That's
give it a
right.
shot. That's right.
Give it a try, because you never know who you'll meet. You never know what kind of connections you'll make.
I love it. That's really solid advice. I like that. Okay, we're going to play a game. Are you ready? This is called What Wins. I'm going to give you 2 choices on each of these, and you can't give any commentary. You just have to say the first choice or the second choice.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What wins? First person narrative or third?
First person.
All right. What wins? Female leads or male leads?
Female leads.
Ooh. What wins? Great beginnings or great endings?
Great endings.
All right. What wins? Nice authors or talented authors?
Talented authors.
Okay. That's what I would say. The last person was like, I'm going to go with nice. I was like, no, man, I'd go with talent. Okay. What wins? Short, powerful manuscripts or long, memorable manuscripts?
Short, powerful.
All right. I think I would pick that too. All right. That is it, everybody. Thank you so much. Remember, this chat will be live for 30 days afterwards. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. You've been really fun.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. Thank you.
Really
Thanks to everybody who's listening.
Oh, thanks, guys. You guys go back to writing. We'll see you next time.
Good luck,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.